I mean, I've been an actress for 40 years. I've been a mom for close to 40 years. And I just wanted like this third act to be something brand new.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. On the show today, we are thrilled, beyond thrilled, to be speaking with actress and producer and advocate Elizabeth Perkins. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so looking forward. I was looking forward to this all week. I'm just thrilled to be. I love you guys. You're great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. I was just fangirling before we got on.
She had to do some breathing, and that's okay. So
sometimes I just adore. I just think you're such a wonderful actress and advocate, and we'll talk about so many things. Let's start at the beginning. You're in Another Simple Favor. My question. Yes. What was it like just saying, oh, we're going to go stay in Capri for a couple of months and see how it goes?
Well, it's just a job you don't say no to. And when you've got Paul Feig, our director, who I've worked with and known for so many years, I just adore him and his wife, Lori. They're some of the best people. And I just got this random email from him saying, how would you feel about coming to Rome and Capri for 5 weeks? And that was it. And I was like, what, is there a job involved? And he said, yeah, it's a small role, but like, we need you here for almost 6 weeks. And I was like, well, okay, I will do this for free if you want me to, Mr. Feig. And I had known the first, because it's a sequel to A Simple Favor. And it stars Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick and Henry Golding. And I remembered the film because it was about 7 years old. And I thought, well, I wonder what the role is. And originally in the first movie, my role was played by Jean Smart. And so I said to Paul, I said, ooh, is that going to be, do you want me to like imitate her? He said, no, I want you to completely make this your own. And I said, well, why isn't Jean coming back? And he's like, are you watching Hacks?
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, yes. I mean, the queen, she's so good on it. And it's so great to see a woman my age.
Yes.
Just killing it. Mm-hmm. So I sort of had the honor of replacing Jean Smart, which I feel really good about too. And I gained about 10 pounds living in Rome for 6 weeks and Capri. There was so much food.
Oh my gosh.
And Allison Janney and I did a lot of shopping. Well, Allison did a lot of shopping. I watched.
Sounds like you and I, Colleen. You watch me shop.
She tends to buy a lot.
Well, Allison's, never married, never had children. And, I've raised 4 children and she's just got a whole, like her wardrobe is insane. And like, this is from Target. So
nothing wrong with that.
I did buy myself a Prada wallet. So that was my purchase in Rome. But she's like, hey, you want to go to Hermes today? And I thought, I am really living the life here in Rome. So I had a ball. I had an absolute ball. It was a great cast. It was a great time. And I think the movie is really fun.
It is. I love the line too, when you're like, you look different.
I had some work done. I know. Well, we had to say something.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Somebody had to say something. So
yeah, I know. It's so beautiful to watch that movie too. My husband and I got to go last year just for a day on a cruise to Capri, but just one day in Capri, but just watching
you go up to the top?
We did.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's beautiful. And it was just nice to see the things, and we're like, okay, next time we have to spend more time there.
It's beautiful.
It's so pretty.
A little limoncello and you are just set for the day.
Right. And I do think most people say, oh, I should go in the spring. What I would recommend is to go like February, maybe early March, because even when we got there, and I think it was the first week in May, it was packed.
Oh, really?
It was so packed that we actually had to cut short part of our shoot in Capri because we couldn't film.
I was probably there. No.
You're probably there. But like you can't close off the streets in Capri, It's it's
Right.
just people with their iPhones, like it's Blake Lively, it's Anna Kendrick,
Sure.
So we ended up doing more studio work than we had anticipated. But you're in Rome, so
Yeah, I think they screened at South by Southwest. My
We were
husband
there
we were there for
Oh, you were?
for
podcast.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, for work. And my
I love
husband and
that
my
festival.
daughter, they were there and they went to a little place and they had blood on the lemons. And my husband hadn't seen the movie yet.
Oh my God.
He's like, why are people walking around talking about blood on the lemons? My daughter understood, but
Right, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
she got it. But that's really cool. Were you there? I couldn't
I
remember.
was.
You were there. Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Yeah, we
And
didn't
that's
get to
yeah,
go.
I love that festival.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
It's very
cool.
long and there's
It's
so many
yeah,
things to see and do. You can't possibly be everywhere.
No,
right.
and it really just sort of encompasses this whole creative. It's so many different avenues of creativity are expressed there that it's really unique that way.
It is. I plan on going back. What about you,
But
Colleen?
I think
oh, you
Yes.
so.
should.
I
Yes.
think so.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We had talked off air right before this about how you left Hollywood recently,
I
LA,
did.
and moved. What precipitated that decision?
Um, I was just fed up. I've been,
Good answer.
well, I'm not originally from California. I think it's very different if you are sort of born and raised there. You have a deep love for California. But I'm from the East Coast. I was born in Queens, and then was raised on my grandfather's farm in southern Vermont, western Massachusetts area. And LA just never felt like home to me. Um, I mean, great beaches. I actually love Northern California, but Southern California for me just I never clicked. It was a great place to raise children because you do everything in your car. You can get your cleaning, you can get your groceries, you can go to the dentist, you can pick them up from school, and then you got soccer. I can't imagine doing that in New York. Um, so that it was great to be there for that. And then once they kind of left home, and I mean, now they're married, and I mean, even when they went away to college, it was just sort of like there's not a lot to do, and there's not a lot of community. Um, Everything is very isolating to me in that city, and um, I finally made the decision. I want a community. I want to be able to go to the church and see people I know, and I want to be able to go to the library and know the librarian's name and the cashier and the man who works, who owns the cleaners. And I just wanted to downscale to where I felt like I know my neighbors. And I moved to Great Barrington in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts, and I have a great community already. And but it was a decision that I pondered for a very long time. And then one day I was like, that's it. I'm gonna sell the house. I bought myself a brand new car and I just packed it full, shipped like a U-Haul box, and drove across the country by myself. And it was so freeing and liberating. And I was
That's
like
so
listening to
amazing.
Joni Mitchell on the way out. I was like, yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
it's been sort of like a huge new step in my life.
Right. That's so cool too, driving, like you were saying, driving by yourself.
It
And
was
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah.
And I had a couple of friends say to me, well, aren't you scared? And there was never a moment where I felt, oh, I'm really afraid. I just felt this huge release of like, I don't have to be, I guess it's sort of like an identity thing. I mean, I've been an actress for 40 years. I've been a mom for close to 40 years. And I just wanted like this third act to be something brand new. And I had never given myself the time to do this is my art studio where I'm sitting at the moment. And I've always been a mixed media collage artist. But no one's ever like seen my work. It's just been something that I do, I don't know, like as a second moment of creativity in my life when I'm not acting. And I just had my first show,
How did
that
that
is so
which was
go?
really like, I was petrified.
cool. Wow.
I was completely petrified. But so I've got this community of artists that I've met, and I live on a great road with so many women my age live on my road, and we go on hikes, and we go out and hear live music, and I'm involved with the local triplex movie theater, and these were all things that I just I didn't have that in Los Angeles. So I thought to myself, hey, you did it. You found a community, and I'm really happy.
That is so cool. I mean,
We
I love hearing that story
Yeah, we
because,
love hearing
yeah,
women who are taking this time of life to kind of not reinvent, but add something, become listen to those little whispers that they had for so many years, but put it
Right.
aside because they couldn't put themselves first because there was, children or a
Totally.
job. And now all of a sudden you're like, wait, I can put myself first. It's
I
okay.
can I can do whatever I want.
Exactly.
And once you sort of allow yourself the freedom to do that, because we're so locked into these roles of being mom, of being, for me, being an actress, being a breadwinner, being a daughter, being a sister, being a good friend, and this is the first time in my life that I felt like, oh, it's about me. And not like in a selfish way, but in a like, oh, I really can do anything I want. And scary. Um, as women, we're not used to putting ourselves first. We're very much, I feel, caretakers. And so sometimes to the point where we get resentful of it.
yeah, oh,
And I
yeah.
know I've been in that space. And now I'm just out here, yeah, kind of reinventing myself.
That's so cool. No, I
Yeah.
do love it because, like you said, sometimes you can get resentful of it, either in that sandwich, taking care of a parent, taking care of a child.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then you talked about, but while before we started recording, about how your daughter wanted to keep track of you on your journey.
Exactly. She's like, Mom, I'm not letting you do this unless you attach a Garmin GPS to your physical body. So I had it like clipped onto my belt loop. And I said, well, I'll just put it in my purse. She's like, no, 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 you could get separated from your purse. I said, well, I could get separated from my belt. She goes, just put it on the belt. And it felt so good to sort of have my child watching out for me, and allowing myself to do that, and allowing myself to be taken care of instead of being the person who does all of the caretaking. It's a journey though, because it's so unfamiliar
Yes.
to not be, the primary caretaker, sort of the emotional, um, sculptor of how the household is being run, and the dogs and the bills and the this and the that, and the person's coming to cut the grass, and scary, but ultimately really freeing.
It is. And letting go of
Yeah,
that guilt. Isn't that
absolutely.
strange how
It's
women do that? Yeah.
completely, because it's not something we're used to. I mean,
Right.
not from my generation,
Right.
but I kind of, um, being a child, I was born in 1960, so the 70s were really pivotal for me. And, it was all, Our Bodies Ourselves, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem. And we were sort of the first generation that was given the ability to go out and work. We had birth control. We were sort of in control of ourselves in a brand new way. But nobody really told us how to do that.
Right.
Our mothers didn't have that, so they didn't know how to say this is what it looks like. And I think we're a unique generation that way.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And we've spoken to many women who hit that 60 mark, and there's some kind of secret sauce that
Mhm.
hits, and all of a sudden you're fulfilling maybe dreams, like I said before, that you had set aside, or you're putting yourself as a priority. And it's a privilege that you've
Mhm.
earned from all those years of putting yourself down the list. Did you find that?
Absolutely. I was always, and I used to refer to it as a totem pole. I was always like sixth on the totem
Mm-hmm.
pole.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the four kids, my husband, oh, wait, my mom, my dad, especially when both my parents got sick or sickly. Both my parents had strokes and it was debilitating. And, there was a good 3 or 4 years of caretaking for them. And when they passed, that was like, whoosh, wow. Kids are gone, parents have passed. Wow, what do I do now? I really can do anything I want. And I realized that I had been holding a lot of resentment about all of the caretaking and just kind of bailed.
Yeah.
But I mean, bailed in a really good way of just sort of, releasing that identity of being, number 10th on the totem pole
Right. It's not like
and
you
not feeling
shirk. Yeah.
crappy about it either,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Because you
like
But,
didn't shirk
releasing.
your responsibility. That wasn't the case
absolutely.
at all. It was like,
Exactly. I mean, I've
yeah.
I've worked really hard for this moment.
Mhm.
And
You've earned, it's a privilege that you've earned.
well, I
Absolutely.
kind of felt like I was rotting at a certain point.
Okay.
Like, um, especially after my parents died, there was a couple of years where I was just like, I'm not really getting a lot of fulfillment out of my work. I mean, I love my work, but when you do something for 40 years, you're sort of, especially when you get pigeonholed into a role, and I'm just kind of bored.
Mhm.
And was really getting a lot of fulfillment out of my collage work. And yet I realized I didn't have a space for my collage work at this huge house I was living in Los Angeles. I had like a corner in my office. It was like, and it was always behind a door. It was like a closet. And I thought to myself, what? Why haven't I claimed a room for my art? Like, why hasn't this been more important? And I would do my art on the dining room table and then put everything away because, it's dinner. And now it's just out.
And it's
Like
beautiful,
I've
by the
claimed an
way.
It
entire
is.
upstairs room in this house
And
of
collage
just my
work.
stuff.
Yeah. You need
Yeah,
that. You need that space.
Space,
Yeah.
right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. But this
How
is
did
the
the
first time I've ever had my own room.
That's cool.
and
That's
think about
cool.
but think about that,
I
and
know.
women take for granted, like, that they don't, they just go through their daily lives not thinking about putting themselves first, or something as simple as I have my own room.
I
Like,
know. Because
that's just
it's especially with this generation, with my children, the rise of social media. All of a sudden, there's these tablets. I mean, luckily for me, when my kids were in high school, it was just MySpace. So we just missed that full on, but it can consume you. And, I was still sort of doing the mom thing, cooking. Oh, everyone's coming over, pasta, meatballs, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he likes this and she likes this. And they're all like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going, wow, okay, so I'm not even having a good time with y'all. So I'm gonna go now. I love you so much. You know where I am. Come
right.
and visit when you want. Come and stay. I've got, a 3 bedroom house. I've got a little guest barn. And yeah, I'll always be here, but I'm doing what I want.
Good for you. do you
That is.
do you find that you like your own company more as you get older, that you
Yes,
find the silence is not uncomfortable?
I don't feel lonely. which I always thought when the kids left, I was going to feel really lonely. I was going to feel like I didn't know who I was anymore. And there were a couple of years where I was kind of lost. Um, but once I made that decision to, and I don't want to use the word flee because that indicates some kind of fear. But once I made the decision that it was okay to prioritize my dreams and what were my dreams, which I hadn't really thought about since like my early 20s. Like, what do I want? Like you get so used to the day to day of being a mom, being an actor, being a wife that like ultimately, where do you see yourself? And I'm like, I want a community. I want a little farm. I want a vegetable garden. I want maple trees. And I have that. And so I feel like I definitely feel like I manifested it, but it was not fear-based.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I
And
totally get it. Yeah.
I'm really glad that I mean, I was in therapy during it though.
Hey, that is
Nothing
great.
wrong with a
I
little
did.
help,
Nothing,
I had
okay?
nothing wrong with that.
the best therapist, and she was about 8 years older than me, so that was even better. Um, and she was very encouraging of me, taking this really big step. Um, I mean, I remember when Patty Heaton was moving to Nashville. I mean, that was a huge step, raising her 4 kids in LA, and that was a big deal. And I would really encourage any woman who's thinking of like, well, what was that dream, that you kind of had in the back of your mind about what you want. I call it the last third of your life to look like. You can do it. You just got to do it. And once I made the decision to do it, it was phenomenal. And I don't feel alone at all. I've actually made more friends here than I had in Los Angeles. It's a smaller community. Um, there's a food pantry that I donate to. There's a church that I go to. There's a library where I know her name, the librarian. Um, the couple that runs the local gas station, the people who run the general store down the road. Like I know everybody's name, and that's new for me. And I feel kind of held and seen by a lot of women my age, and that's it's a really beautiful feeling.
Oh, that is really fabulous.
It's
And
really fabulous.
it's fabulous. Yeah, just to have that community there. And
Yeah,
if like the librarian might know a book you like and hold it for you.
right.
And,
Exactly.
they'll say,
No, I have
haven't
never
seen her.
had that in my life.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
was,
crazy because you
yeah.
think LA, there's so many people and you're running into people constantly, but it can, even in crowds, people can feel quite isolated.
I always felt really isolated in LA. Even like dropping the kids off at school, picking them up at the soccer game, doing this, doing that, doing that. It was just kind of like I called it running to stand still. And
Yeah.
you're just kind of doing this until you're burned out.
Right.
You know, I definitely reached a level where I felt physically and mentally exhausted right about 54. um, right around menopause. Well, actually, I was in menopause much earlier, but where I just thought I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have nothing interesting to say. I'm bored. I still have a lot of great girlfriends in Los Angeles, but I wasn't prioritizing my own dreams.
Right.
It was really about everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Can we
And you,
talk about your menopause
yes.
experience? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
such a
Yes,
unique kind of perfect storm at age 45.
it was the weirdest. It was really hard. I had been diagnosed with pretty severe endometriosis, which is very, very painful disease that doesn't get a lot of attention. And I'd had surgery for it once, and came back right away. And so it got to the point where the endometrial tissue was so bad that it had attached my left ovary to the side of my body and was basically like tearing my fallopian tube.
Oh gosh.
And I was 45 and I made the decision, after years of pain, to have a hysterectomy. But I hadn't been feeling well for a very long time. And they said, well, you take out your ovaries and your uterus and your fallopian tubes and you feel better. And I was like, no, it's worse than that. And, they wanted to put you on in, SSRIs. Well, maybe you need to go for more walks. Maybe you need to exercise more. Maybe you need to lose weight. What's your diet like? Maybe you should cut out carbs. And you're going like, no, I have blurry vision and I feel like I can't stand up. I haven't slept in 4 days. And, and they're like, well, maybe, are you in therapy? And you get so frustrated that that nobody's hearing you. So I went in for my blood work for my hysterectomy, and my OBGYN came in the room and he said, I'm putting you in an ambulance and sending you to the hospital. And this was after like a 3.5 year journey of saying, I'm really sick. I'm really sick. And I knew it wasn't just endometriosis. And my blood glucose was 640. And I was immediately diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, which makes so much sense to me now. And it's an autoimmune, it's late onset autoimmune diabetes and adult onset. And then 2 weeks later, I went in and had a full hysterectomy. So it was the first season of the show Weeds.
I was going to say,
Yes.
was that right around
Oh my
Weeds?
goodness. Oh my gosh.
And I was just sort of, my daughter was 14 years old. The kids were all like preteen and teen, and it was just very overwhelming. Really,
Can't even
really,
imagine.
really
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gaslighted enough
Completely.
for endometriosis and
Exactly.
enough as a woman. I'm like, why didn't they do blood work?
And it's a simple blood test.
Yeah.
And I had been going to my general practitioner for about 3.5 years. And he had taken blood work. And so when I confronted him about it, he said, well, you only really presented with abnormally high blood sugars like twice. And I said, this was really before you could check your own medical records on the internet. This was like, you peek in your file while I'm like, why am I peeking? This is me. Like, why do I feel like the doctor knows best? Oh God. And I said, well, what do you mean I had abnormally high blood sugars? He goes, well, you presented once at 200, but I just thought maybe, you'd eaten a hot fudge sundae or something before you came in. And you just want to, it's like, I almost died.
Yeah.
Because you weren't listening to me, you weren't hearing me, you weren't seeing me. And I know that a lot of women, particularly through menopause, but particularly for anything having to do with being a woman, there's not enough research, there's not enough acknowledgement, there's not enough understanding of hormonal changes. There's no consideration. As a matter of fact, it's the butt of so many jokes of like, well, she's hysterical. It was the time of the month, must be PMS. There's that people don't take women's issues or pain or suffering seriously.
Right.
And that was really my experience, and it almost killed me.
Yeah, there is a really good, you've probably seen it, documentary about endometriosis below the belt.
Yes, I have
You've
seen
seen
it.
that. Yeah. And we've had her on too.
It's
The producer.
amazing.
Yeah, the producer of it. And it is, I mean, that really opened my eyes because I was fortunate not to have it. And so many
Right.
women have
Good.
it.
Yes,
And
so many women.
so many women have it. And
Same with
yeah,
polycystic,
yes,
there's,
Yes.
and these are things that just don't even get acknowledged.
right. Like,
I'm
yeah,
and with the menopause issue, I'm so proud of Naomi Watts right now for what she's doing because she's such a prominent voice and has such a following. And she's like, "Hi, we're going to talk about this now." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God," because when I was going through it, it was just, I mean, I wasn't even given the option of like hormonal replacement therapy. It was just, you want what? And there was nobody in LA who was like providing that for you. And so I just went cold turkey. Suddenly I was in surgical menopause, and it was really overwhelming. It was really overwhelming.
so nobody at all acknowledged, like, hey, you might want to, oh my
Well,
Take
goodness.
some estrogen or
Yeah,
they're not
yeah.
acknowledging that she's diabetic because they're not even
that's
looking
true.
for it. So
That's,
how would
yeah,
they?
yeah,
And
Obviously,
yeah.
they
suddenly I'm doing insulin, and well, they did prescribe me estrogen pills.
Okay.
And it's kind of like one size fits all.
Mhm.
And there's no consideration for like how women's bodies vary, or it's not just estrogen, it's also progesterone, it's also testosterone. There's so much going on. And the fact that it's relegated to like, oh well, the time of life,
Mhm.
like it's some kind of joke, is I experienced it firsthand, and it's not okay.
No, I have
Yeah.
two nieces, well, actually three nieces in their 40s that had to get hysterectomies in the
Oh,
past two
so yeah,
years.
right.
And one of them had PCOS. And I said, hey, did they offer you um, did they offer you hormones? I think only one. I said
Yeah.
they didn't discuss it with you at
Nope.
all. And I
Nope.
mean, not that I'm not a doctor, but just
But
doing
we've
this and
talked to a lot
talk
of
to
them over
so
the last
many
5 years.
professionals
Right.
that have just said, hey, and really there is a great doctor out of Chicago and Colleen Stryker, Lauren
Oh,
Stryker.
Lauren Stryker. I
Yeah,
wasn't sure
Uh-huh.
where you were going
I
with
was
that. I'm
like,
like,
she is like so great. She has a book about hysterectomies and one of the first that ever really talked to us about it.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, well, so Colleen and I always say we want our daughters and the women below us to at least maybe be able to take it like, oh, here's the answers.
Right.
Here's
right.
some
Take
Right.
it for
answers.
granted that they have
Right.
options as opposed to
Right.
us having to fight for them.
Right. And then, you also think back to even being in your 30s when you're sort of in your real fertile age. And I see what my daughter's going through in her 30s of the ups and downs and the ups and downs. And it's almost like society kind of makes fun of that
Right.
and doesn't take it seriously.
Exactly.
And it just makes me think when I think about my hysterectomy, it's I would say like, well, if I was a man and I was told that I have to have my testicles completely removed, like there would be a fund
Oh, yeah.
available.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
would be research out the wazoo, for what that means for a man,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm
Hmm.
not trying to be cynical or mean or bitter or anything. Um, but the lack of care, real care, serious care, and the understanding that every woman's body is completely different. Um, and so I took the estrogen pills for about 3 weeks until I fell into a deep, deep, deep depression. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to cold turkey it because I can't. It took me so long to get here with the medical establishment that nobody talked to me about compounded estrogen or compounded progesterone or, oh, you should take magnesium or nothing,
No, not a
nothing.
patch, nothing. Yeah, because on the Premarin or the oral
Right. The
estrogen,
Premarin. Yep.
passes through your liver. I didn't think about that because I was on it for a while.
Right.
And then I started bleeding again. And
Mm,
then I called and it was too high. And I'm like, we're going to do something else. And now
right.
I've got my little patch. So it's,
And
She's
is that
very happy
working
with her
out
it
for
is
patch.
you?
working. I love my patch. It makes me think of Naomi Watts saying we were at a place where she was speaking, and
Hmm.
the first time she was with her current husband, or I shouldn't say current, her husband,
Her
the
husband.
first time she was intimate with her husband,
Right.
that she ripped her patch off because she didn't want him to see it.
Oh, isn't that
That's so
funny?
funny. It's like now she's like, okay, everybody, here's the patch.
It's got to be
But
Right.
mainstream.
Right.
yes,
It's just got to be mainstream. And I think there are a lot of
yes.
women
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
who are getting older who are have voices now that are being heard that
Yeah.
maybe 20 years ago they weren't, Halle Berry's didn't exist screaming about menopause and
Right. Right.
difficulty having sex. And it's
Hmm.
until women feel like because there are women we have spoken to that go to the doctor and they don't even discuss their symptoms because they're
No,
embarrassed. And
Mm-hmm.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
it's 2025. Like that's unacceptable
But
at any time.
it's
Mm-hmm.
also I think a societal thing, that women's pain or women's issues just there's like an eye roll about it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
as opposed to really taking it seriously.